Ladies and gentlemen, boy oh boy, do I have the video for all of you today. As we all know, as you can see from my guide video over here, Chakona just released in Wuthering Waves, and easily her best team in the game currently is with Jiyan. And so I decided, why don't we go ahead and just watch a video about the glorious return of this unit by Blazion, who has been slowly becoming one of my most favorite Wuthering Waves content creators in the space, because bro is actually a bit of a nerd with the analysis that he does across this game. I think his last video on Kalchara was super in-depth, actually got into like a lot of things like TOA resets and all of that stuff. And so what I wanted to see was the attention that he's given to, my opinion, one of the most well-aged units in the game, the General himself. So with that, let's go ahead, get right on into it, and see what this one's all about.
Sup guys, it's Blazion here with another YouTube special. Since all of us like snakes, we're gonna talk about our first limited 5-star, the Hare or Serpent Dragon General Jiyan of the Mid-Right Ranger.
What did he do to warrant getting called a snake, bro?
Now we all know he had a rocky journey throughout the first year of Wuthering Waves, but something marvelous happened in the latest updates. But before talking about the present day, we should remind ourselves how Jiyan was on the game launch. Jiyan was the first limited 5-star character of Wuthering Waves.
I love the history lessons that this guy does. And once again, I do believe, like, literally today, May 22nd, is when this guy released. Because that was a year ago. That was long.
An arrow DPS character that marked the meta for how strong Jiyan was, while having an incredible signature weapon with a crit damage main stat. This character that people who hate farming for his own ascension due to the Donkey Kong boss fight, but Donkey Kong Echo set was also a mandatory Sonata set, it being Sierra Gale, a stat stick 10% arrow damage boost and plus 30% arrow damage boost after intro skill. Farming this overworld Echo would be an important thing for Jiyan's kit, due to after making a powerful bonk, it could give Jiyan further 12% arrow damage and heavy attack damage bonuses.
And now he has a better one, though it's like conditionally better depending on how much ER you have.
Now, why does it matter to have heavy attack damage on Jiyan? Well, simply putting, because his most powerful ability is Resonance Liberation, which scales with heavy attack damage. An ability that has very high AoE range and can crowd control small enemies around Jiyan. Keep in mind because this matters in the future, making it even possible for even a monkey playing Wuthering Waves to play him properly.
And that's where he got the nickname in China. I do believe the nickname that he had on release was the Wheelchair General, because the idea was that even if you were like completely dog shit at the game and potentially physically or mentally handicapped, you would be able to get some decent results out of him. But be honest here, guys, you can also play him kinda sweaty. You can play him pretty damn sweaty in his most popular team with Mortifee, where you're doing stuff like swap cancels with like the Shorekeeper and like the Mortifee's going like pew 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 pew, and she's doing like all her swirly shit and like building up Concerto faster in that team. You weave in like an Echo cancel, and then you're like, damn, bro, wait, this is actually kind of hard. And then you got the Qinglong cancels as well. Hopefully bro mentions those, otherwise he's not a true Jiyan player. I'm just gonna say it now. If he does not mention the Qinglong cancel, we are going to have an issue, buddy boy.
Aside from this, the best way to build Jiyan is to get the obvious crit rate and crit damage focus on every artifact substat, and also to reach a maximum of 130% energy recharge in order to spam his liberation as much as possible. We can talk about teammates now, for example the fact that Yang can function as a battery with her auto skill, that helps Jiyan spam even more of his resonance liberation.
If Yang is S6, running Yang Jiyan and like a healer like a Burrito or a Shorekeeper is like actually not bad, because Yang Yang's rotation can be so disgustingly fast that it's way shorter than Mortifee's, and her additional ER lets him use his liberation almost like off cooldown. This is something about Jiyan that some people might not actually know or realize. His liberation lasts for 10 seconds and it has a cooldown of 16. This actually means that he has 6 effective seconds of downtime in his rotation, which almost seems ridiculous. There's currently like no real like sub DPS or team combination that can leverage the fact that this ability has 6 seconds of actual downtime. When you like go back onto your support, like your Shorekeeper or like your Verena or whatever, what's gonna typically end up occurring is that their rotation is going to take longer than 6 seconds, And so he spends like a good amount of time with this shit on cooldown. Like, if you just compare it to like other transformation liberations in this game, like let's just use Encores for example. Hers is also 16. And so these like transformation abilities never end up getting like their full use or like their full potential out most of the time. And the end result is that like, hey, once this dude's 5-star limited sub DPS comes out, I feel like there's going to be like a lot of, no, I feel like this is one of the things that they're going to focus on. I want his 5-star limited sub DPS to have the fastest rotations in gacha gaming and give ER. I want them to be Jeja, but faster and heavy attack and arrow. You know what to do, Kuro Games. You know what to do. The team's not that funny, okay? I've used it before. It's not that bad.
You serious?
But let's be honest, guys. Everyone knows that the only choice for Jiyan is always going to be Modify. Modify's Ultra skill buffs heavy attack damage, a buff that
You haven't even built him yet. What the?
Jiyan really likes getting. But not only that, but with the Static Mist and also the Moonlight Cloud set, Modify can further amplify Jiyan's damage with more 10% plus 22.5% attack damage, respectively. All of this making Jiyan a powerhouse that can sweep and swirl his enemies all together at once. And also the fact that TOA gave Jiyan even further boosts made him the best character of the entire 1.0 patch, sitting comfortably on the top of S tier, only being behind of the mandatory all-around healer that everyone would always want to have on their teams. Now, why am I focused
Well, you would use Marino with the Jiyan team.
so much on talking about Jiyan and how to play him on version 1.0? Well, it's very simple. You would also understand this even if you were not the sharpest tool in the shed, because his entire playstyle is just using his liberation. He either has the damage or the potential to fight multiple enemies, or he doesn't. That's simple. For example, in 1.0, Jiyan had no buffs in 1.0, which was a detriment to the general of the Midnight Rangers, being easily powercrept by the new main DPS and the sub DPS, Jinxi and Shangli.
Time out. Time out. Back check. Back check. Back check. There's no universe where Changli's doing more damage than this motherfucker as a main DP. Nah. What? Come on. Nah, there's no universe, bro. Nah, man. Jinxi in 1.2, maybe. But Jinxi with a Yan Wu or Jinxi with fucking Yinlin, I don't think it's doing more damage than the Jiyan team. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it is.
Getting himself lower than them, but still doing his job well. 1.2, for example, without any hero boosts. Once again, Jiyan had to compete with the units of the patch, and an unfair fight, being slowly behind Jinxi and the new main DPS in town, Changliao, maintaining still his same placement. In 1.3, Whimpering Wastes decided to give Jiyan a chance by boosting the TOA on the second and third cycles. Not only that, but also adding Shortkeeper on Whimpering Wastes helped Jiyan elevate his playstyle. Wait, what? A stat stick one-dimensional playstyle gets stronger with better supports and TOA boosts? I know, right? 1.4, a new main DPS dropped in town in the name of Camellia, even stronger than GC on release due to her massive TOA boosts on this patch. But Jiyan didn't care, he's still there on a mission, and the mission is to try to still remain as relevant as possible. But like any gacha game, sadly, the general couldn't withstand for longer. And in 2.0, without a single buff, he couldn't perform as highly as he once was.
Brother man, hold up for a second. Alright. What do you mean not a single buff? Maybe he's just joking. You got a new monkey.
And he couldn't do it as good as the alternatives even. Carlotta, for example, although having a shorter range, could dish a lot more damage. Camellia simply existed. Jinxi could afford to be used with Jiyanlin and Jessie.
He's talking about tower buffs? Oh, okay.
Shangliao could pair with Yinlin and Shangli. As much strong as Jiyan is, his playstyle doesn't fit the TOA anymore because the idea is not continuous damage but the highest damage possible per rotation. And this crippled Jiyan, who tried to keep his relevancy, but sadly at one point Jiyan would fall off. Not to say that he sucked now, it's just that instead of him being amazing, now he was just good and a better options existed.
Okay, so this is how I know this tier list is full of... Okay, Lazion, I'm gonna need you to... This website, Yinlin is ranked above Jeja, and Verina's in A. This website is cracked in a bad way, bro. This tier list is cracked in a bad way, bro. We can't be using this one, bro. With Carlotta and Jinxi in the game, Jeja's in A tier. We can't, bro.
Other options existed. However, in 2.1 marks the actual reason for why I decided.
Okay, we're sorry. What was? Maybe I guess you'll see now, Bucko. Oh, you're under the fine magnifying glass now, buddy boy.
Reason for why I decided to make this video in the first place. Regardless if you play Whimpering Wastes or not, it still is another important endgame content of Whimpering Waves, and to deny its existence is to diminish the value of certain units that do well on this mode. And yes,
Bro,
this mode is specifically catered to AoE units, which is exactly what Jiyan is. So yes, Carlotta is a good unit, but the fact that she doesn't deal well with multiple hordes of enemies makes her lose her own value. And Jinxie, for example, also falls under the same umbrella too. But the Man of the Hour,
they're okay. Carlotta and Jinxie are okay if you're willing to like time your abilities properly and like do like some weird rotations occasionally. But yeah, Jiyan, you can kind of play him in the same exact way. Camellia, you can play her in the same exact way as you do in the TOA, and I think that's what makes them feel a lot more reliable and at least easier to pick up in like higher tier in comparison.
Legend, who decides to revive back from A tier, decides to force himself up on the matter just for the way that he's always played. As simple as it is.
Yeah, he even makes the same point. Just the same way he's always been played.
One-dimensional kit that simply is getting what he deserves. To say that Jiyan's kit is a good match for Wiwa is an understatement. Jiyan's entire revival of his entire character to a lot of players only worked because of this game mode. Jiyan was favored in the meta, and the others could be a lesser valued option,
Was still good in the TOA this entire time.
making him remain at the second best DPS of the patch, not only because he's new.
Okay, what's Brant doing an A now, bro? What? You at least switch the spots of these two. At least switch the... At least do... Come on. And put her back in S.
Permanent game mode, but also because of his TOA buffs that also boosted him further into relevance, at least in TOA, getting the unthinkable achievement of beating the test of time through a gacha game's existence. Did Jiyan in 2.2 fell off though? Not exactly. Players have gotten used to Brand Shangli quick swap, and the only reason why Brand surpasses Jiyan is because of TOA boosts of this patch, and also the fact that Jiyan had nothing in favor of him. Not that it mattered in Wiwa, since he was still one of the 3 best characters to play in Wiwa. And last but not least, 2.3, and an argument could be made already. Yes, it's obvious that Zani was too good with Phoebe's Rove, but Wiwa itself, it suffered a major setback in the name of rotation downtime, which hindered the combat style of Zani. And also, you know, Phoebe exists, and you know, we all know what happens when Phoebe exists on Wiwa. Chegli brand still exists, yes, I know, and they're still the go-to Wiwa conquerors. But Jiyan accomplished the same mission of maintaining his relevance. Not in TOA for sure. If only TOA, he would have been on the same level as Cheng Liao probably in A tier. But the fact that Wiwa exists makes Jiyan's existence less tragic than his own past. Which is why Jiyan is a unique case that defies power creep itself. He's an old unit that can still be reliable, even if he's in the game since 1.0. Not as much in TOA, that's for sure, but Whimpering Wastes was
Okay. Let's not look at TOA speedruns of the most recent patch as like some sort of judge of like how good it is, buddy. All right? Let's be entirely real here for 1 second, okay? Be entirely real. That is data. That's data based off of this. Spectrofrazzle damage is amplified by 100%. And what you just showed was 30 pages of Zani. And her main damage dealing abilities are considered Spectrofrazzle damage. Look at these multipliers, bro. And so she's just getting 100% damage amp on like everything in her kit. So, I mean, let's be real here, right? I don't take any speedruns from this patch even slightly seriously, especially in the middle tower, considering the fact that this is the most broken, busted, unbalanced Tower of Adversity buff I have ever seen in the history of my life. In the history of Wuthering Waves, this is the most broken one we've ever seen. The amount of just like sheer absurdity involved with whoever decided to balance this one, they were on crack. I swear. You could probably take a level 40 Zani that's not built, and it would probably be able to clear this because of how crazy this fucking amp is. It's insane, bro. It's illegal. It's like, it's borderline unethical what they did with this TOA buff. I hope there isn't one as strong as this ever again. Or honestly, they probably could. It just trivializes the game mode completely if you do pull the on-banner unit. It's still entirely possible, as you can see, using like older units, but it just trivializes it so bad if you pull the newest on-banner unit. It almost feels like not fun. I'm probably not the only person that feels like it's actually not fun to use Zani in the middle tower on this TOA because it's genuinely it's too easy with how much of a buff she gets in it. Maybe that's a hot take. Maybe that is a hot take, a crazy one that doesn't make that much sense, but that's just how I feel. Because I'm going in, I do one rotation, and it kills the boss. One singular rotation in the Zani team, and it kills the boss. My S2, R2 Zani can't even finish one rotation, bro. That's what I'm saying. It's dead before you use all of Zani's Blaze. That's how ridiculous it is. So yeah, that's just my take. I think it's... maybe not that. You know what I mean.
The mode that helped Jiyan come back into relevancy due to how easy it is to build him and the other characters around him, and the fact that the mode really caters to big AoE damage and crowd control. Things Jiyan can do all by himself with his Resonance Liberation skill, which is actually an accomplishment for this single unit.
And I think one thing that a lot of people don't talk about enough is the fact that he is, without a doubt, the most affordable unit in the game. From the perspective of, Mortefi is always on his banner. I think the only time Mortefi has not been on his banner is when he reran in phase 1 of the anniversary that just passed. And so when you pull for a copy of Jiyan, you end up getting at least 1 or 2 copies of Mortefi. Mortefi is also on like a fuck ton of other banners. And so when you get that S6 Mortefi, he's a 4-star unit that will just show up on your account across time. I don't think there's any day 1 player that's not at least somewhat close to S6 Mortefi unless they just don't pull on anything in the game, or they've been exclusively avoiding him on every single banner. And when your best in slot unit is a 4-star that you probably have S6 copies of, that uses Static Mist, the free-to-play standard 5-star pistol, which you should probably have multiple copies of as well, I mean, bro, it's just like, you pull him, you pull his weapon, and then you just go obliterate all the content in the game. And the only thing he's kind of missing right now is, I don't know, maybe like a Sonata set or 2? Maybe a Sonata set, or maybe like, I don't know, like a new 5-star limited sub DPS that's better than Mortefi?
What do you guys think? You think Jiyan is good now because of Whimpering Wastes? Or do you think he's still not as good anymore? To me, I feel like since the start of 2.0, Jiyan was going to fall off like any gacha game. I was always led to believe that the newest studios were always going to be stronger on every gacha game, because Powercreep would always happen in any single game like this. But the fact that Whimpering Wastes has been releasing new characters, and the fact that Whimpering Wastes is a mode designed for characters with big AoE like Jiyan, there is something that is actually amazing to think about, because sometimes the new units are not going to perform that well. And the fact...
well, Phoebe's okay after Kachona's release, but damn. When 2.1 released, Weewa released, and then Phoebe was the sub DPS, the on-banner sub DPS when Weewa was in, bro. Oh, dog shit. It was unbelievable. It was the worst Whimpering Waste unit I've ever seen in my fucking life. Legitimately, tier F. Tier 10. The worst main DPS you could possibly use in that game mode. Awful. Now she's usable with Kachona, but before, awful.
That Whimpering Wastes is a mode designed for characters with big AoEs. Like Jiyan, a character from 1.0, he can still be viable in this specific game mode. Either way, guys, we just hit 3,000 subscribers with 11 videos and 100 Discord members on the span of just 15 days. This is amazing, guys. I want to thank everyone for the continued support, and also for the content creators that support me behind the scenes. Hope you guys had a great time. See you guys on May 22 when I will get my Shakona, and definitely...
apparently, he pulled an S6 Kachona. And I do believe he won like 5 50-50s or something along the way. So I guess the W's don't necessarily end here. And you want to know the only unit that Shakona currently supports in Wuthering Waves? Well, you fucking guessed it. Yeah, she only works with Jiyan at the moment if she's on like her signature and doing arrow damage. Though he's probably using her as her main DPS if he has her S6 at this point. Overall, it was a nice video, but some of the comparisons that he was making, I really do think bro is heavily understating the potential of Jiyan in the Tower of Adversity. And I didn't think he, like, got into the, you know, let's be honest here. In 2.0, bro got a Nightmare Echo that was specifically designed for him. A Nightmare Echo that was specifically designed for him. Could have been some mention of that as well. And, of course, right, those tier lists. They're fucking bad, bro. Just, I mean, at this point, I know this is the thing with the tier list. All of the early Wuthering Waves tier lists were pretty bad. I think even Pridewind in the current day and state would tell you that their old tier lists were not that good. But nowadays, Pridewind's gotten a lot better. Yeah, might as well just start using all of those from like fucking like 1.4, 2.0 onward.
How's that for a magic
Yeah,
trick?
that's just something to keep in mind. But whatever the fuck other website you're using where like Jeja was worse than Yinlin, you gotta get that shit checked out, bro. Great vid overall, but just a couple of like...
Couple of stinky things you gotta get cleaned up, my friend.
Let me know what you all think. Peace.